Hello and welcome. I want to talk to you today about a very special game that I think is super cool. It's not fully out yet, but it'll be coming out next year, and you can get a key through the developer's Discord if you wind up wanting to play it sooner. They give out keys pretty often there. But I want to talk to you today about a game called Granvir. I've played a lot of roguelikes, and I've had friends that have tried to get me into roguelikes, and other than Dead Cells, there aren't that many that I really enjoy. Granvir is different, maybe because it's a mech game as well, which is also a genre that I adore, but also something about moving through these levels, collecting these different parts, and being able to see the weird combinations that I can come up with, using a lance with melee and trying to get in close with it, while pairing that with spider legs that let you jump super high. Just a really good time. The guns feel really solid. The missiles feel great. It's just a joy to play. And though I do have a few small complaints and a few small things that I'm interested in seeing how the game changes before release, every update, the game gets better and better, better. Combat is the main thing in this game, as it is in a lot of roguelikes. You're going to be fighting a lot of enemies. Enemies spawn very quickly, and your notoriety, as it were, that's not what the game calls it, but that's pretty much what it is, right? Your reputation gets worse and worse as you play. The stars accrue very quickly, and so enemies will start just dropping out of the sky. They will be everywhere, and you're going to be killing a lot of them, which is good because that's how you get credits to be able to buy better parts or to be able to repair your Granvir after it takes damage, which it's probably going to do. The enemies hit very hard. There are a few things that I think make this combat system work really, really well. The first and most important one in my mind is that your Granvir is heavy. It's not going to be moving around very quickly at first, especially when you don't have a very high-powered reactor or when you don't have a great set of legs. Your Granvir is going to be slower, and that gives the combat a almost back-and-forth pace as you try to use the terrain to your advantage to get around enemies, shoot them from distance, or try to use the terrain to be able to get in close to be able to hit them with your melee. I do think melee is a little bit weaker, and we'll get into why just a little bit later. Although melee can kill things very quickly, there are some pretty big drawbacks to it, and the ranged options are really, really solid. So I think for your first couple runs, I mean, obviously, if you want to get a big melee weapon and just go ham, go for it. For your first couple runs, you might want to try some double ranged for a little bit. That said, I did my first run with a fire axe, and it was incredible. The second big thing that I think helps this combat system is that it is really your Granvir, right? The parts that you choose to equip, the parts that you find as you go through the level, whether because you completed a mission or because you got them as a reward from the Groundbreakers or because you salvaged them up or because you found them in an enemy base. For whatever reason, however you find those parts, the ones that you choose to equip will drastically change the course of your run. Maybe you find a great back piece, but you don't have a torso that has a slot for back weapons. So you choose to keep it in your inventory, even though knowing that's going to mean you can pick up less loot as you go forward, but you're going to have it for when you find a torso that has a good back slot on it. Maybe you sell something that was very useful, a weapon or even an arm, to be able to get the money to be able to buy that torso. Or you book a porter to be able to carry that back slot item further forward in the game so that when you get to that point, hopefully you have a torso that can handle it. Maybe you choose to forego back slot items completely, stick with a basic torso, and put all of your money into melee or ranged weaponry. Maybe you want more health. Maybe you want more armor. There are so many different options, and as you do your runs, as you play through and pick which journey you want to take across the map, you will find more and more parts that will let you customize your Granvir. Before we get into the rest of this game, I just want to mention this is not a sponsored video. The dev did not pay me to make this. The dev did get me a key, and that is awesome and wonderful, and I thank them so much for it. But there were no stipulations put on that key. I was allowed to say whatever I felt like saying, and so I will do so. The last big thing that I think really makes Granvir's combat feel great to me is that you are fighting a guerrilla war, right? You are one against an army, or if you're playing the multiplayer version, which we'll get into in a minute, 2 or 3 or 4 against an army, right? But you are not surrounded by a bunch of help, right? And you're not just dashing in at high speed Armored Core style and taking on an army. Not that I don't enjoy that. Armored Core 6 was my game of the year. If you watch that review, I gushed about that game for like 30 minutes. Anyway, the point being, you are not going to be able to just go in and handle it all. You have to play it smart. You have to be careful. If you're not, you're going to be very low health, very low armor, and trying to get to extraction, and there are going to be enemies spawning in front of you. Enemies, and by in front of you, I don't mean directly, by the way. Let me clarify. They spawn out of sight, or they spawn in a base. And as you pass by that base, they're going to come out and try and kill you. So you have to be very careful with your positioning as well. And you don't have to worry about that in a lot of the more fast-paced mech games. Obviously, your position matters, but you have the ability to boost really quickly out of the way or things like that. And you do have a dash in Granvir and a jump, both of which are different according to what reactor or legs that you have. So there are options for that, and you need the dash, really, because there's some exploding problems that come up with melee. These 3 things together, I think, make this combat system really, really enjoyable. It's strategic, but also you're still panicking a little bit when you're surrounded by enemies and having to take down priority targets fast, take down the guy with the mortar. There's little guys over here that I can run over, but I don't have time to go over and run over them because I have this guy with the fist coming at me, and the guy with the fist is a problem. We're going to get to that guy in a minute. It is just every second I am having fun. I am focused, especially if you play the multiplayer mode. I played a lot the other day with my buddy Remus, and it's just so much fun going through this game where you're trying to work together, but also at the same time, you're trying to share parts, and you're trying to, finish your build, but there's more enemies, and so you're having to try and have each other's back while trying to, get to all the objectives you want to complete, because completing all the objectives on a map can be really difficult, but you get better rewards if you do. So it's the give and take of trying to make sure that you're doing everything you can while also not losing the run. Let's talk a little bit real quick about how the base works, because that's a pretty big component of this game. You have a time limit whenever you get to base, 12 hours, 15 hours, depending on where you're at. And you have options you can choose from a menu, a couple menus actually, that will allow you to repair, customize, purchase, salvage, help out the locals, lay low, and a couple other things, right? You have to spend hours to do these things. They're realistic in that way, right? You're not going to be able to just lay low for an hour and call it good. You need 3 hours. But at the same time, it means that sometimes, especially if you have to repair a lot, you're not going to have enough time to do everything. There's a really cool option in the menu to tune up your Granvir. It increases all of your stats. It's really great. It costs 3 hours. If I've got a choice between tuning up my Granvir or repairing my Granvir, I'm going to repair my Granvir. Almost always. And there are items you can find in the field called scrap metal and a couple other variations of it that allow you to heal when you get back at base. But those take up slots in your inventory. And those are slots that you can't pick up component crates, weapons, components, or new parts, right? So you have to choose. It makes every run individual in a really cool way. You don't have to get those parts, right? You can repair for credits. But if you repair for credits, not only does it cost you credits, it also costs you time. More time and more credits that aren't going towards getting new parts that you might have wanted, or new components, or buffing up the units you have. Later on in the campaign, you get access to customizing that allows you to customize your Granvir and give you some better stats or better functions, and those are super cool. That also takes time. That also takes money. Sometimes you get premium salvage or premium scavenge, which allows you to find a specific part. That takes time. So you're always having to make the choice of, do I want to spend the hour to go to the mechanic and repair? Do I want to spend the hour to go and buy more ammo because I'm running low on ammo? Or do I want to spend the 2 hours to go to the black market? But if I go to the black market, my reputation's going to go up. So then I've got to spend some time laying low, or the next mission's going to be more challenging. And I think it just, I know I've said it a couple times, but it creates a really great dichotomy of, I've got to manage my time super well, but also I want these cool things. And it makes you choose what cool things you want. And I could see some people getting frustrated by this system. I think it actually works really well in the core theme of the roguelike, because it means that no matter what, I always have to make a choice, and none of the choices are like drastically better than the others. All of the choices will pay off somehow, but which one is most advantageous to me at this moment? There were a few runs where I didn't understand that you could salvage your own parts, and so I would get a little frustrated that I couldn't sell. Almost every time I've gotten frustrated with this game, it's been because I missed something, not because the game had done something wrong. There was one bug that I ran into that I'll show footage of here that didn't really upset me. It was just weird. And there's a couple minor complaints that I have coming up. But for the most part, this has been a very smooth, slow in the best way experience, and I'm just having a blast with it. My go-to so far has been a lance, because I love lances in video games, or an axe for melee, or if I'm going for a ranged build, to go twin pistols or a shotgun. Twin pistols or a shotgun are just really, really fun, satisfying. You can get a big cannon, and that's great. But also, and it's something I didn't mention in combat, your parts can get blown off. And if they are, they're done. You gotta get new parts, you know? So you need to be careful as to letting the enemies get too close to you or doing too much damage. Speaking of too close to you, let's talk about one of my few minor actual complaints with this game so far. Now, Granvir's not fully out yet. Again, and all the footage that you're seeing is not from release. It is from pre-release. So let's just keep that level and clear and make sure everybody understands. But I have two major complaints when it comes to melee in this game. The first is that there is an enemy type that is a twin-fisted enemy. That enemy hits so incredibly hard. I'm sure it's balanced around how much damage your melee can do as well, because your melee hits really hard, so their melee should hit pretty hard. But at the same time, it hurts. It hurts big time. You can go from full armor to no armor in a couple seconds if you let them hit you. Now, if they catch me by surprise, come around the corner and hit me, that's on me, right? I should have been paying more attention. But if I'm trying to get into melee to hit with my melee weapon, and then they hit me with theirs because I'm reloading with my ranged weapon, maybe because I didn't get any back slots for this run, it doesn't feel great to be hit quite that hard. I'm not even saying they need to be reduced a lot. I just think maybe a fifth of the damage they're doing right now be taken away. Not they do a fifth of the damage they do right now. Just a fifth of it be taken away. And I think it would be just about right. But I'm just one person. My opinion doesn't equate for everybody's. So absolutely, if you have played it, please voice your opinion in the comment section down below. Or if you're interested in playing it, please go check out the developers Discord. You can also go wishlist the game on Steam. My other complaint, and this one is not one that I think necessarily anything needs to be changed on. I think there are some changes that could happen, but I absolutely get it, right? There is a chance, no matter how you kill an enemy unit, there is a chance that they will explode. It's very cool. It's very thematic. I love the explosion. It looks great. The animation for it is wonderful. If you're in melee, using a melee weapon adds heat, and you don't have any more heat gauge, you just can't dash away. and you take a lot of damage from the explosion. Now again, I don't even necessarily think that needs to change. I just think it's something that I have to play around, and there are times when I'm using a melee weapon that I'm in the zone, right? I'm in there, I'm swinging with that melee weapon, I'm knocking them down, and then I see that core go to light up, and I'm boosting out of the way. And there are times where I've used up all my heat gauge, and I can't boost. Take almost my full armor bar and damage. That's still my fault, right? I did that. I should have been more careful with my heat. I should have had a back weapon. I should have had a better ranged weapon. I should have spent my shots differently or not missed so that I didn't have to be in on melee with everything like that. But the problem is I really like the melee in this game. And so I like getting in there. And it's a little disheartening whenever I get in there and they just explode right away. I don't know what the chances are. I don't know if there's different ways to make that happen less. But I just wish there were some more options for it. Now, there are shields you can get. And shields are super cool. I love the addition of the shields. Being able to block an explosion like that feels amazing. I've only found the shield in one run so far. It doesn't mean that it's not available. I could just be unlucky. But I would like, here's one of the few things that I would like to see change in the full game. I would like to see some kind of option, like a lot of roguelikes have, to be able to increase the odds of specific weapons being found. Maybe from the main menu, maybe in a run, you can spend some of your credits to make sure in the next run. A lot of different roguelikes do different things with it. Some are more in support of it than others, and maybe the dev has no plans to do anything like that with Granvir. But I would like to have more of an option, get a shield for melee runs, or more of an option to get back missiles, because when you get the back missiles, they feel incredible. One last thing I want to talk about real quick. There are a lot of different mission types in the game. Liberate villages by killing specific enemies, restoring power cells to a thing. I'm not actually sure what that thing is that I'm restoring power cells to. The game probably told me and I probably missed it, but it seems cool. Taking out outposts, those are really fun. But my favorite are the ace enemies. They're the closest thing this game has to regular boss fights, and there are specific aces around the map that you can find in the different areas that you go to should you choose to go to them. The map clearly shows you which section the aces are in, so if you choose to go into that level, you know going in you could run into that ace. I wish the aces were a little bit easier to trigger. I don't want to have to do the entire mission just to fight the ace if I'm already weak, but I want to fight the ace because they drop really cool parts, and they're cool fights. They're cool units, right? At the same time, if they were too easy to trigger, then you could accidentally trigger them while just trying to get to the exit while you're dying, and that would probably not be too great. There is a final boss fight in the game right now when you get to the Citadel, which the Citadel is a super cool mission, by the way. But the Fortress, I guess, not Citadel. I don't know why I keep trying to call it the Citadel. But that boss, I have yet to beat. That boss is very difficult. I don't even know if you're supposed to be able to beat that boss. Remas says you can. I've yet to be able to do it. But I do think the boss fights are really cool. I kind of wish there were more of them, right? If you take the quickest route to the fortress, then you'll never fight an ace. And that makes sense. I mean, you're trying to rush there. You're not going to stop and fight them. But I do wish there were maybe a few more just scattered around. I'm really excited for the full release of Granvir next year. I haven't played all that much of it, really, compared to a lot of other games I played this year. But I didn't expect it to grab me the way that it did. Even now, talking about it, I just want to do some more runs. You know, I just want to see what more cool parts I can find, customize my mech in other cool ways. And the dev has been constantly rolling out updates. Each update brings cool new stuff. There's pile bunkers in the game now, and that's awesome. I just can't wait to see what the full release is, and I'm sure there'll be some more support after. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Are you excited for this game? Does it look cool to you? If you want to check it out, you should go check out the dev's Discord. Go wishlist the game on Steam, you know, show them you're excited for it. But personally, I'm stoked. I can't wait for the full release of this game. With all that said, I've been Trey. This has been the Full Spectrum. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum. Granvir.